This video is look at a widely used coverage in the NFL and across multiple levels of football that many defensive coordinators and coaching staffs have put their own spin on. Tampa 2. So a typical version here, first on a 3rd and 10, the Jags on the road against the Browns in 2023. From an empty formation, you have this high-low concept to the boundary. Really, this basically ends up being a throwaway by Joe Flacco, but there's the element that we would initially say is a marker of a Tampa 2. You have an inside linebacker or second-level defender who's spot shadowed in the middle of the field, running the pipe, which is called between the hashes, and then the two deep safeties getting depth almost near the top of the numbers, but just inside of it. The width there can change. Essentially, like I said, this is a throwaway. I think Flacco is just holding on to the read as long as he can because he knows the coverage here and recognizes that he's trying to get this corner to commit one way or the other. So either down to the running back who's on a chip release to the flats, or get some depth to handle here, and then Flacco would throw to the other guy, whoever's open. Again, I would consider this a typical, traditional usage of a Tampa 2 structure. So let's get to two slightly anomalous ones that I think really illustrate how different coaches can kind of put their stamp or cover the Tampa 2 coverage in a different way. So Minnesota, 2023 on a 2nd and 10 against the Lions. And so Harrison Smith is going to drop into the flats. He's a safety. So there's some elements here that kind of look like a sky cover three. But again, you have the inside linebacker or a second level defender, I should say, spot shadowed in the middle of the field, in between the hashes, number one. And then you've got your two deep safeties who are just inside of the hashes from a width standpoint, 2 to 3 yards inside the top of the numbers. That distance inside the top of the numbers can vary depending on where the ball is located. It's a great throw, obviously, by Jared Goff, sticking this throw in there to Jamison Williams, underneath of the Mike linebacker, dropping to get depth, and then also with a converging defensive end slash inside linebacker who is going to make contact, pretty solid contact with Jamison Williams. So there is one slightly different version of the Tampa 2 with a safety dropping out into the flats, in this case Harrison Smith into the boundary, and he's long been a guy who plays into the boundary, particularly when the ball is on the left hash for the offense, right hash for the defense. Now let's show you a slightly different version, or a drastically different version, I should say. 3rd and 12 for the Bengals facing the Ravens, Week 5, 2022, and you're going to get this inversion of two defenders, meaning they're crossing each other's face. Marcus Williams, 32, is going to open up, and he's basically running between the hashes as the deep third defender. And I know that doesn't make sense because you say, well, it's Tampa 2, coach. Technically, you really got three deep defenders. And in this case, Malik Harrison is crossing his line of movement. And that is kind of what holds Joe Burrow's attention here, trying to figure out what's going on. You don't often have the third defender in from the sideline, 1, 2, 3, ending up with the fourth or fifth zone in from the sideline. And the fourth defender in from the sideline, Malik Harrison, switching roles with him, essentially. So Mike McDonald and the Ravens defensive staff trying to present as many different looks as possible to Joe Burrow, but still getting into that traditional look post-snap, if you ask me, of a Tampa 2, two corners in the flat. Sometimes one of those corners can get a Louis or a man call or a lock call on the backside, which basically indicates you're going to play man inside of this zone coverage. One more look at it and from the same game, in fact, and you can see how complicated Mike McDonald and his staff tried to make things look for Joe Burrow. This is a 3rd and 10 later in the game. I think we're in the second quarter. And again, going to go with the Tampa 2. Check out the alignment of Harrison and Williams, two of the players that I talked about significantly on the last play that I showed you. And this is how they're going to get this accomplished. Williams, instead of running between the hashes, which is what he did on the previous play I showed you, not the previous play in this particular game, I think this is separated by about 7 minutes of gameplay. But now he's dropping to be one of the half-field defenders. Same player, two different post-snap responsibilities. And in this case now, Patrick Queen has run into the in between the hashes. Malik Harrison and Odafe Owe have dropped out on the hash. This is actually a 3rd and 8. I think I had it mislabeled as a 3rd and 10. My apologies. But the point is, you're giving Joe Burrow a coverage that the Bengals, at least at that time, did have some difficulty with. There's Patrick Queen spot shadow once again. But you're doing it from a different look pre-snap multiple times. So there is layered teaching there, obviously, for the players on your defense, trying to get multiple guys responsible for different roles. Just a quick look at the Tampa 2 from a traditional standpoint, the first play, and then multiple variations of it, the last three.